Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to our Open Up Show, episode number 166. Thank you for your continuous support. Please continue your support. My name is Sivam Velautham, and I am the founder and president at Voice of Men 360. Today, we have an amazing guest. His name is Shane Patrick. And before I bring him, I want to talk about the Voice of Men 360. It is a non-profit organization founded in 2020, based in London, Ontario, Canada. And it is part of International Men's Day. International Men's Day has been serving for over 25 years. And so far, 95 countries around the world joined together and doing various activities regularly. Voice of Men 360, basically we are following the same footsteps. Why open up? Because we want to create a space for men to open up and then share their emotional feelings or their stories. Today, like I said earlier, Shane Patrick, he is the one. He is here, masterclass, adult clown therapy teacher, podcast host. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shane. Is it Divorcing Mrs. Claus on Spotify?
Yes, that's correct. Divorcing Mrs. Claus on Spotify.
All
That's
right, thank
absolutely
you.
correct.
Shane has built over 20 years of unique entertainment experience that enhanced his personal growth and marketability through providing a really cool vibe space for others to be entertained and educated in. He also award-winning clown speaker and author. Also, I mean, we will get to know him more. Okay, so welcome, Shane. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Sivam. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to our discussion tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to start you. Maybe I want to take you somewhere a couple of years back. You tell me where was there any kind of like midlife crisis or like a big turning point? Because from law enforcement to moving to a clown master teacher, how did you become, or why did you want to become a clown master teacher?
As you said, I was in law enforcement for many years, and I left law enforcement. It had always been my dream to be involved in that field of work, and I was very good at it. And eventually, though, I developed post-traumatic stress disorder during my career, and that ended my career. And so what happened is kind of unique and interesting. I had a friend at the time, and he said, if you're looking for work that is meaningful and will help pay the bills, you should try being a clown. He goes, you can have a birthday clown for children. And he said, you can have a costume made, and you develop your own face makeup, etc. And I had never seen a clown as a child. I didn't know what a clown. I knew a clown was supposed to be silly and funny, but I had really no concept of what a clown was. So I began at that point to develop my own thinking of what a clown should be, with absolutely no background, like YouTube at the time. It wasn't even developed, I don't believe. So there was nothing to refer to, no books to read on how a clown should be. And so my wife would paint my face, and we created a face, and I had the costume made. And then I went for 6 years being a children's birthday clown with no experience. And I was suffering heavily mental health wise with post-traumatic stress disorder and depression due to the post-traumatic stress disorder. And yet here I was performing children's birthday parties, and I was so well accepted that I began to travel across Canada doing clowning for kids. And I performed with various entertainers in the children's entertainment field. And it wasn't until about year 6 when I had a TV clown who was very famous at the time called Luna the Clown. She was a TV clown for kids. She had her own show. And I had the distinct pleasure of having dinner with her when I was in Toronto during the summer. And she said to me, I really think you should take a clown course from a world-class clown teacher. And I was of a young enough age when I was doing my clowning that I thought, well, what can she show me? I'm already in demand. And of course that filled my ego. And I thought, okay, I'll go to my friend said, I'll call her, you go and you see what she has to teach you, if anything. And I went expecting more instruction on how to be a children's clown. What I did not realize, Sivam, it was that this world-class clown teacher taught a different type of clowning. She taught theater clowning, which is a therapeutic, but it's on stage for adults, and it's done through the expression rather than the voice or making balloons or doing the things that you would do at a children's party. And when I showed up with about 15 other people, all dressed in ballet outfits, men and women. And I was dressed in my track pants and t-shirt. And this lady had a big stick. And she began to say, pirouette, I want to see you move. And doing things that I thought, I don't know how to pirouette, but I did my best, and she wouldn't have any excuses in the class. And as the day wore on in that particular setting with her teaching, she said to me, Shane, I want you to come to the front and show us how to be a happy clown. And so I did and acted as I did at children's birthday parties. She stopped me about midway and she said, stop. She goes, that is not what I'm asking for. She goes, I don't want you to do it with your voice. I want you to do it with your actions, with your face. I want you to become the clown that you're trying to get a message through to the audience. I want you to become that clown, but not say a word. I was so scared. I had no idea what she was talking about. And she stopped me 3 more times and said, move away, like get to the back of the line. You're not getting it. And when I got back to the front of the line, and after watching everyone else, I learned that this was not something that was being taught to entertain children, but this involved going deep within yourself to show through expression either pain or pleasure, and to really bring your mind into those spaces. And from there, it was a 2-day program. The second day was even deeper work that taught us more about being a clown, but as an adult clown, a theater clown, no voice. And by the end of it, she stood up and congratulated me in front of the class. And, she said, you came here, you're overweight, and everybody else here is a lot skinnier than you, but you know what? I embrace what you have done here. And it was then that I understood what she was asking me for, what type of display she was asking me for. And it caused me to go to my heart. And I'm still having post-traumatic stress disorder thoughts. I'm undiagnosed. So I'm not, I'm all over the place in my mind. I'm stressed, I'm full of anxiety, but I learned for those 2 days. And then and I took that into my life experience. And my whole life has been full of mental health adversity. If there is, I would say, a label to be given to me, it would be adversity in motion. Because there is not one thing that I have done in my life as a clown that has been easy. Even until this very day that presents us, that we're sitting here talking today, life is not easy. It's always challenging me. And so I developed coping mechanisms based on what I had learned from this woman in Toronto, this world-class clown teacher. And I began to see life not being done to me, but rather being experienced in a very special way by me. So I'm not being attacked. I'm learning lessons about life. And I have to see them in my own teachings. I have to see them in a very vulnerable way. And I know for a lot of men that is difficult. And it was for me. But it has to be done vulnerably. And when I got to that place and I got a few years older, I understood a lot more about looking at things many, many, many different ways without judging any of it.
I also want to praise and also, appreciate that you are willing to share that story, and not only that, at the same time that everything happening for a reason, right? And not only yourself but also people around you probably learn something, and then in some ways you heal yourself and also you are helping others too, right, at the same time.
Yes, yes. And I have to say that even now, in 2023, I left a very abusive marriage. And again, looking at things through a clown's eyes, as I like to say to my students, gives you the ability to be vulnerable. And I remember I was on a podcast many years ago, and I said in that, and I still have the video on my phone, and I seen it the other day, and it was all about surrendering. And in that podcast, I looked into my phone and I said, you do not know surrender until you know surrender. And through that, I had no idea of the adversity that was to face me, what was to come next. And it only got more interesting, the adversity. And I really had to become vulnerable as a man to say, I'm tired and I can't go on. And I had to reach out and ask for help for the first time. And when I did that, when I was truly vulnerable, because I had to be, I came to the point where I moved across Canada after my separation. And I moved to an island in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean with some of Canada's harshest climates. And I did this all on my own with no skills to speak of. Because as I got closer to each adversity subject, I was also diagnosed with additional mental health issues. until I reached half a dozen very serious mental health issues. Point where I moved across Canada after my separation, and I moved to an island in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean with some of Canada's harshest climates. And I did this all on my own with no skills to speak of. Because as I got closer to each adversity subject, I was also diagnosed with additional mental health issues until I reached half a dozen very serious mental health issues, which I deal with today. And you know something? It does no good to put on a social mask. And what I mean by that is it does no good to wear a mask and when somebody says, "How are you?" you say, "I'm fine." It becomes a reaction when you're not fine. And so when I began to tell the truth, actually, I'm not fine, people felt uncomfortable. And normally that would dissuade many people from being open, but it did not. It empowered me to be open further with further people. And they asked the question. What they wanted to hear was everything was okay. But what I told them was, I'm the farthest thing from it at the different points I was in my life because of the adversity that I faced as someone with mental health issues that came when I was of school age. It started then, and it's followed me now well into my late 50s.
Thank you for sharing those, your personal insight. Actually, it is not everybody willing to share, but you are coming forward. I will come to the point. I want to talk about that more. But what I want to ask is that just taking back to two things I want to talk to you. One is when you were actually, moving from one profession to another profession, it's so much challenges, right? Mental battle and so much inner dialogues and things like that, whether you want to continue or what the heck, I don't know. I don't know this, I don't know that. So how do I move, how can I survive, things like that, right? So
Yes.
how did you handle with that? That's one. Second thing is that the inner child that when you are actually going more and more, becoming, doing those, on stages or like any birthday parties or anywhere, being with the children and everything, the inner child. Can you talk about those moments? Like, how did you handle, or how did you enjoy? Is there a way to healing, or something like that?
Yes, absolutely. And what a great question. I early on, because after I was diagnosed with the mental health issues that I had at the time early on, um, I was then put into therapy. And in between doing the clown shows, I was doing therapy with a therapist, a professional therapist. And something that was brought up to me was your inner child. And I was asked to go back and take that inner child. I had been sexually abused as a child from a family member. And I was asked to go back to that time and take that little boy within me and bring him back to the future with me and say, now I will take care of you. Now I can take care of you. And at first I encountered a lot of anger. And for some reason, that topic of your inner child triggered me. And I know why now. I didn't know why then, but I know why now. And that's because it was rooted in trauma. The inner child was rooted in trauma. So now your question is, how do I ask, or how do I find that inner child? I will tell you the very honest truth. It's taken a long time. But this past year, after leaving an abusive marriage and going out on my own to a place I'd never been before, it gave me skills and confidence that when my therapist 30 years later says to me, I want you to access your inner child, I feel strong enough to return to those times when my inner child still is a hostage. And 2 weeks ago, literally, I was without anger able to embrace that inner child and bring it forward. And truly, you have to speak, whether it be in your mind or you speak it out loud. You must communicate with that child. And people, if you want to lock yourself in a bathroom, or you don't want to be, you'll go to your bedroom and do it privately. It doesn't matter how. The fact is, though, that by being extremely vulnerable, you have to be able to speak to that inner child and truly feel confident that you're in a place mentally that you can embrace that inner child and really see how much they've missed you and how much they've loved you and how much you've really missed and loved them. So it really took a lot of time and experience, life experience, for me to get through it. A lot of people get asked to go back to see their inner child and take them back to adulthood, and they can do that. First time, no problem. I commend those people. Unfortunately, that was not my experience. But once I did 2 weeks ago, and I understood fully what I was doing, it felt like I truly brought something home to my heart that was missing. And that would be the inner child. And I'm sorry, I forget your second question.
No, that's fine. I'm coming back. Thank you actually for being open and sharing.
You're very welcome.
What I want to ask is that, just for a minute, can you talk about I know you went through therapy, but how about any other supporting mechanism, any other supporting, tools or anything that help you to overcome or even managing the situation or day-to-day life though?
Yes. And that is found and rooted in something that I call spirituality. And it is the energy which I believe in as part of my belief system. I believe everything gives off an energy. And I remember I had a therapist who was a 60-year-old woman. And she said, you know that your body gives off an energy. And she said, you have to protect that energy every day by doing certain movements that bring up your energy, that protects you. That energy then exudes from the pores of your skin is the idea, and you create like a force field all around you. And whether that you do that in your imagination or you do it with the techniques that I do teach in my master clown classes, either way is fine, as long as you do it. Now you can visualize, and I began to visualize. What I was told was visualize a very bright light that surrounds you. And that can be your higher power, whatever you may call that higher power by various names. And that higher power will create a glow around you that will protect you. And for me, I'm a very visual learner. And once I did that, it felt like I took back part of my life, part of the control, because people that I would run into in my daily life that were negative or condescending or bullying or happy and pleasing to me, I didn't feel, if I did my energy exercise before I left the house, I didn't feel like they were able to penetrate that exterior ball of light, that big glow around me. And what I was taught through the therapist was, at the end of the day, I want you to take the clothes that you were wearing and throw them in the laundry and turn on your laundry machine and clean them. Because eventually, as that white ball dissipates, all the junk is attached to it. And then all of a sudden it's on your clothes. The energy is on your clothes. So wash your clothes, ridding it of the negative energy. And Sivam, it was that simple for me that I was able to imagine that white light around me. And that really got me through some of the most toughest times of my life.
Absolutely, because even though anybody is going to help us, at the end of the day, we are the only one who can help us, ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter we talk to somebody over the phone or meeting somebody or somebody is helping in some ways, but end of the day, we have to help ourselves. Nobody is going to around us all day, all night. It doesn't matter. There's some movements that we have to have, or we have to help ourselves. So that's the way the life is. But what I want to ask is that I saw the one look at a live scenario of any kind through your own clown eyes. That's what you are actually teaching your students. Can you explain more?
Absolutely. And first of all, I want to say again to your audience that I'm not speaking about a birthday clown. It has nothing to do with face makeup or putting on a special outfit or doing balloons. A lot of people, when I talk about teaching an inner clown workshop, they think I'm teaching them to be the birthday party clown. And even though I say adults, they don't get it. It's not registering, and I understand that completely. It's a foreign concept. What I ask for, what I mean when I say to you, look through your clown eyes, is to take the situations that are placed before you, that challenge you, that trigger you, that cause you happiness or pain. And I want you to be as so vulnerable that if it makes you angry, you allow yourself to be angry. If it makes you happy, what you're hearing, then you're looking through a happy clown's eyes. And so your eyes and your eyes are actually the windows to your heart. Because what I'm asking you to do is be vulnerable. And as men, that is very, very tough. I've not met a whole lot of men that are willing. They can all do it, but they're not willing to be vulnerable. And that is not a process you can teach until they've been brought to a point where they have to be vulnerable for their very survival. And so what I say is, when I'm teaching you to look through your clown eyes, your clown isn't always a smiling clown. You don't wake up every morning saying, oh, I feel great today. And you go smiling through it. And certainly bless you if you can. But I know that that's not the truth. And so I ask you, if you're feeling triggered, whatever your reaction may be to your day, if you have a headache, if you're not feeling well, let that take the form of a clown. And think of, how would a clown, now I'm talking a theater clown type of idea, how would a human clown, theater clown, how would they respond? Because if you remember my teacher, one of my teacher's teachings, they don't want to hear your voice. They want you to express it through your body language. And that naturally takes you to a deeper point within yourself, because you have to think, boy, how do I really feel, and how can I express that without words? And I'm not certainly saying to hide. I'm not suggesting that at all. In fact, quite the opposite. I'm asking you to display that in a very environmentally perfect way that is your experience. If you're having a bad day, create a clown persona within you and think, how would an unhappy clown with a headache feel? And what does that look like? And so you start to build a relationship, as you've pointed out earlier, with yourself. And yourself, that inner self, I call the inner clown. Because if you aren't brought to a point other than happy, sad, angry, frustrated, if you are not made to think of how a clown, an actual theater clown, might respond to that, or a life clown might respond to that, you aren't going to go below the surface to go deep enough into your heart to truly answer those questions. In fact, you'll come out like I did the first time, thinking a birthday clown's gonna, when I was getting those teachings about how to be a theater clown, I did a birthday clown. And that's when I was told, that's not what I'm after. And that's what I say to my students. I'm asking for, what does your heart create based on a clown interpretation? And I always say, you always hear, look at things through different lenses, look at life through different lenses based on what's happening. I'm asking you to do the same thing, but take it one step further and create a clown persona that enables you to cope with the adversity you're feeling or facing. I have a saying: what impedes us empowers us.
Absolutely.
What impedes us empowers us. And I really think that's a great way to look through a clown's eyes, that adversity isn't something you should fear, but something for which you wish would happen to make you a better clown. It's the
Absolutely.
only way you're going to learn. As you said, only you have to go through it.
Yeah, it is part of our journey, life journey, that we had to learn, we had to understand, we had to get into the the whole system, or the whole uh, the circle, that you can feel it yourself, not myself or others, but you can feel yourself, or you have to feel yourself, right? um,
Yes.
what I want to ask is that, how can an individual learn about life through internal inner clowns, especially men?
uh, by doing it. It's one thing to say you're going to take a weekend course.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that that's not applicable to what I teach. Is my course 2 days? Certainly. But they could easily be Monday or Tuesday rather than Saturday or Sunday. This is more of a lifelong teaching, and it requires, actually, in my opinion, it requires you, if you're going to delve into this topic and you're going to learn this properly, every person has to commit then. And that's the beauty of the teachings. You have to commit 100% that it doesn't matter how silly you look. It doesn't matter how much your belief system disagrees with every other person in your life. It doesn't matter that your friends walk away from you because now you're acting a little different. What you're doing is you're saying yes to what exists within me. And when you say yes, I'm willing to examine closely my heart, what my inner clown is today. And I'm happy to call it something. Make sure you label it, in your own way. And it doesn't have to be any special label. Once you do that, and you'll go through various stages, I think I've achieved that. I'm confused. I haven't achieved that at all. And oh gosh, now I know what he meant. And so it is a lifelong pursuit that never ends. And if you're looking for healing, how easy is it as a man to imagine a clown, to because we can go now to YouTube and learn about different clown faces and the way they're painted. You have sad clowns, you have melancholy clowns. These are all what everybody feels anyway. People feel that every day, and they're not realizing that that's their inner clown trying to tell them something. And that something is, don't worry about what people think. Focus on your own path. Because if you start going down somebody else's path, somebody says, hey, come this way, it's easier. The grass is always greener on this path. And until you get there to this dream place, you realize you've stepped off your own path and stepped into a nightmare that is totally created by someone else's path. So I'm saying to you, stay in your own lane. Use your inner clown to be your own person, to be your own vulnerable person. Don't go down the paths that will crisscross your path and offer you all kinds of easy looking things. No, stay in your own lane. You have work to do, and there isn't a lot of time to do it, because as soon as we're given life, the very doctor that gives us life also gives us death. He starts a death clock. So it's imperative that we try to live without worrying about others' opinions. I'm going to give you an example. When I first got this, and this is a tattoo, I lost, within the first 4 weeks, 4 25-year relationships walked away from my life. All because I had and got this tattoo. And the tattoo has a meaning. It's not just a tattoo for the fun. It has a meaning, a life meaning about battle, about the scars that come from battle. And your inner clown will carry those scars. What does a clown look like with scars? Whatever you're asking, you have to trust in the process of what comes out. And as I say, it won't happen right away. You're not going to let it. Your ego's going to get in your way. But once that all falls away, and that's what the help of working with a master clown teacher does, once that person teaches you how to supersede the ego and really be authentic, it is only then that men, you can let your guard down. We're no longer in the times where you need to be strong like your father showed you. These are different times. It's okay to be vulnerable, but you have to be the first one to say, I'm going to take a step and say, I need help. And once you ask for that help, a world of things is going to open up, because you're going to see the emotion and the people that will come into your life that you've never met before. And they're going to be very special people who will get you the help you need, much as they did me in my darkest hour.
Absolutely. I love to hear more and more, because it is a way of learning and looking at life, and of course, helping others too, right?
Yeah.
But what I want to ask is that what kind of challenges nowadays, or even before that, when you go back and then looking back those days, and then so many years you already been there, and then you are now in the stage of teaching others. So from the starting point from now, what is your learning process, and also what do you see yourself right now?
My learning process at this moment is very simply put, nothing has to be done fast. You control the pace of life.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one that, as men, that you will draw the line in the sand and understand personal boundaries. And you must enforce those personal boundaries. You must draw the line in the sand. Again, whatever you're saying no to, you're saying yes to something else. And even if you're saying yes, you're saying no to something else. And whatever you're choosing is the right thing. And you have to believe that with the very core of your being, with your heart. You have to get past the fact that society says men are weak if they're asking for help. If they have mental health problems, think of the men out there that are suffering because they've got this distorted view given to us by our parents most times of how a man should be and how a man should look. And we try to embody that in a culture that is now doesn't see men the same, within the same hierarchical level. I was a stay-at-home dad. I raised my child while my wife was the so-called breadwinner of the family, working in a corporate job. Now that we are getting a divorce, I was told by a lawyer that there is a massive bias in the legal system about a man receiving spousal support, for instance. Judges or even attorneys find that a hard pill to swallow, because it's only been the other way around, where the ladies are in that role and they get the spousal support. I'm not a man if I'm getting spousal support, is the message that I was being given. And as close as I am with myself, it became a wrestling match in my mind, because I thought, I don't know any men that are being supported by their wives financially, but I can't let that stop me. I have to be vulnerable enough to say, I may be one of many, or I may be the first. Whoever I am, I trust the process. I don't know what the process is, but I'm going to trust in it. And that is that universal energy that I spoke about earlier. You have your idea of what should happen, but really that energy that I spoke of, it's got a whole different plan for your life. So live without expectation of anything. Live without expectation that even food will be on in your breakfast bowl in the morning, or food at night at the supper table. Rely on nothing. Trust the process. And most recently, I got so destitute due to lack of any kind of funds coming in that I began to wonder how much longer, how much food would it take for me to stretch that out. And I had never faced that, where I was rationing food. I had never faced that obstacle before. But the obstacle is exactly the way to the assistance that you have to ask for. So the obstacle is the way. And there's a book called The Obstacle is the Way by a gentleman called Ryan Holiday. And he speaks at length about these theories. What impedes us empowers us. And so you don't have to be a man about that and say, yes, I know, but what impedes us empowers us. And you don't have to growl and be manly and all of that sort of thing. It's okay to not be okay. And when you realize that, at the stages you're going to go through, at the time you realize how vulnerable you can be, you're going to be in a later part of your life. If you don't learn this lesson, you're going to be at a later time in your life when it will come naturally. And that's okay too. But you're going to go through an awful lot of pain, and it's only going to increase if you don't get vulnerable and see life through the embodiment of the clown that you feel like that day: sad, happy, angry, confused, any of those, or anything else that I haven't thought of. It's okay to be that clown today. And if you feel silly, be silly. If you feel serious, be serious. That's okay. It's all okay. There's no parameters here around being a man that are set in stone. Each man is unique, and we can be of a unique mind. And people don't have to agree with me. I love listening to people. I learn all the time. And when you finally get to that point, someone says to you, "Who are you?" And you say, "I am nothing, and I am everything."
Well said, Shane. Well said.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So the point is actually, I was listening and then I was thinking back and forth that, suffering is part of our life.
Yes.
We had to accept it, but we don't want to continue. What all suffering is the one, or is taking my, or ruining my life. No, you just take a control of it, and then try to manage it, or learn to handle it, right? Rather than you know other way around, right?
Yes.
Because otherwise, like you said, even other individuals or the system or anybody else in the world, in the universe, taking control of you, you take control of your life, though, basically, right?
Yes.
Because you have a purpose here. You came here for a purpose, to
Yes.
finish, complete your mission or whatever the thing is. but you are here for a purpose, right? So
Absolutely.
I want to take you with this month. June is the Men's Mental Health Month. So how can we encourage men to seek help and talk about their problems instead of isolating themselves? You mentioned a couple of things, but from your experience, since people like yourself coming forward and then willing to share, willing to talk about it, willing to open up. That's why we put this the title or the name for this show, Open Up, right? So,
Yes.
what your suggestion? What do you think? Like, how can we bring? The reason why we want to discuss this one is that if you look at the ratio, suicidal ratio around the world is 78 to 80% men. So
Yes.
it is very unfortunate at the same time that this a reality, right? Nowadays is so many things after COVID, especially after COVID. So we need to talk about that more and more. And then
Yeah.
not only one gender, but also every gender has to look at from different point of view or understand their struggles too. So what is your suggestion? What do you think?
Well, I think first of all we have to realize that we are living with our parents' era as they lived in their parents' era, which was it was beaten into you rather than introduced to you how to be, how to be a fine, proper woman, how to be a fine and proper man. And what I love about the diversity of people in the world today, non-binary people, these loving relationships, they get down to the core of what is a relationship, whose life are you living. And I say to people this example, and this is an excellent, I think, example. And I'm going to ask you, Sivam, who named you?
Absolutely, my father.
Yes. You had no choice in that matter. You are Sivam because he gave you that name, Sivam.
Yeah.
I am Shane because I was given by somebody else that name,
Mm-hmm.
Shane.
Mm-hmm.
It takes away at birth, the power is taken from you. And then you begin to rely on the mother and the father as you grow for direction. And you know as well as I do, the diversity of that direction from family to family can be quite different.
Yeah.
And so we grow up looking at our fathers, and we may say they were good fathers, we may say they were bad fathers, but why are we recreations of them? And why are we acting like them? When there's a say, people feel when they get into their 50s and 60s, they start saying things like their mother used to say. And I say, why do you do that? Because sometimes dreams, what do they tell children when they have a nightmare? They call them, the parents say, oh, you had a bad dream. And when you think of those two very opposing language uses, I had a nightmare versus I had a bad dream, everything appears to be okay. And then your parents die, and there goes your encyclopedia of life. And that's when people start to trip and fall for the very first time, because they've always had the ability to go back and say, Mom and Dad, I'm going through this very tough time. Tell me how to solve this. And again, they're telling you limited advice, how they would solve it, how they were taught, which dates back eras and eras. Is it right? Is it wrong? Who's to say? But the fact is, why are you not living your authentic, vulnerable self and allowing that? You will see the people will change. You'll lose a lot of people, but you're going to gain the very few who are meant to be in your life and provide you with a positive life experience. And they're going to support you no matter how you look. I could have 20 tattoos on my head and they would embrace me and say, I love you. And men and women have to learn to say, I love you, not as a cliche saying, because that's what married people do. That's what people in girlfriend, boyfriend, or partner relationships of any kind do. But it's something nice to say. And then people find out later on, after you've lived with that person for a year, that's not the first person I met. They put on a social mask in order to intrigue you in. So for you to be vulnerable, for you to erect personal boundaries is essential to finding your inner clown. And be slow. Do not do anything fast. Because if you do fast things, you're going to end up going down somebody else's road, because that looks an awful lot shorter than the hell that you have to walk through sometimes in life. So you'll take that sidetrack and you end up getting a real beating from life. So I say to you, life is not being done to you, it's being done for you. And there are many lessons out of each experience. I firmly believe that. Of those lessons, then it is imperative that you say, how does that make me feel? And if it's triggering, what would that look like coming from a clown's eyes, feeling that feeling? Before you say anything, how are you? As opposed to just, fine, I'm doing great, smile, and then you go to your desk and go, I've been depressed for 20 years. I can't handle this anymore. Rather than doing that, get on board as early as you can to go deep into your inner clown and to realize that that inner child is a part of that inner clown. And that makes up the experience of your life, not so that you can pass it on, but so you can make it in general through your own life. Don't look to pass it on, look to get on the right track for you, however that looks, but embrace it with an open, authentic heart.
Absolutely, that's a great advice. I wouldn't say advice; it's a sharing from your own experience. That's the way you can take it. I'm pretty sure whoever is watching on the other side, they can get something out of it. I just want to give you some announcements quickly, and then I will come back to you, Shane. I do have two more questions to ask you. Okay,
Sure.
give me a few minutes. So what we are actually seeing is that listening is that Shane Patrick is sharing his life journey with us. But I do have a quick announcements. We do have open up a live talk show. This is the one actually listening, watching right now. It is on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And Billy is a Tamil live talk show. It is on Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern time. And then monthly men's group meeting only for men by men, second Saturday of every month from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Through Zoom, no recordings. And then coming up this coming Saturday is the one we're going to talk about trauma and healing. So you really want to join that meeting. And then the Zoom link you can find on our Facebook and page and other social media platforms. There are no limitations to gender, age, nationality, or ethnic groups. All walks of life can participate in any of our shows. If you want to be a guest on any of our shows or willing to be part of our organization, help us directly or indirectly, please reach out to us. We would love to work with individuals, professionals, experts, community organizations, associations, corporations, government officials, and businesses. Phone number is 226 289 8784. Again, for the phone number is 226 289 8784. Email address is info@voiceofmen360.org. Website www.voiceofmen360.org. And you can absolutely find us on all social media platforms, Facebook group and page. Please join, and then you can invite your friends too, because you can see most of our activities on regular activities on Facebook. Other social media platforms are Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have done over 500 episodes on various topics, discussions. So you don't want to miss it. Please, please go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Shane, what I want to ask is that going back to your, life, let's talk about for a minute, because Father's Day is coming up. So father and son relationship. Can you share some memories about your father, if it's possible?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a timely question. My father, he wouldn't accept, as my mother told me, that when I was younger, I was diagnosed in school with learning disability. He walked out of the teacher meeting because he said, "No, my son is perfect." No pressure there, huh? No pressure. My son is perfect. He's okay. He doesn't have a learning disability. And I remember a father that was in anguish that his son was not perfect. And normally people would be hurt by that. The way he taught me was by yelling at me. The way he taught me was by trying to be calm, but not achieving that process. And although he was he was a dad, and I mean, he wasn't a bad dad. He was a good dad. He just he didn't know how to handle his energy. And my mother ended up being, wearing the pants of the family, as so to speak. And my dad around my mother would be very quiet and meek, and he'd withdraw around my mother because she was such a guiding force of the household. But what I do remember, and what I will say to fathers this coming Father's Day is, it's fun to think when you first have children that you're going to make a replica of yourself. That's fun to think. It's going to be and they even joke, it's a little me. My child is a little me. And as the child grows into a 20-year-old adult, that child's doing everything you're doing and even talking like you. That, in my opinion, you're doing that child a disservice because you're not giving them a chance to understand and ask questions about who they think they are. Who do you believe yourself to be? To ask yourself is a big question. And that son, that when you ask that question, he may need to think about it. He may ask you to clarify it, or he may answer you right then or there with a really great answer. But I always encourage parents. They said, well, my dad would have done this to me, and my son's not following the rules like I didn't follow the rules, and he's just like me. No, he's not. You're training him to be. Let your child grow. Ask them questions rather than issue directives or commands in the family. Stop making them versions of you because you've already given them their name. Why, you've taken that away. And that child may change their name later in life, and there's going to be a whole family upset because the child wants to change their name. But that name implies a name that comes with a lot of energy that's placed upon you to follow the family tradition as his dad raised him, whose dad raised him. and it was always a hard, physically hard. If you got out of line, they would spank you and physically use corporal punishment against you. And that's still being practiced today. And do you know why? It's because kids have been programmed like their dad. The best gift you'll give your dad this Father's Day is the gift to say, Dad, I want to understand who I am. Can you stand by me? And if I have questions for you, can you give me the best answer that you think you can? I may not always take the information, but I appreciate your input. But I don't need to be you to be successful. And you don't need your child to be you to be successful. I went against my dad's advice. He said, I can get you a factory job that I've worked in for 30 years. I can get you in there tomorrow. You'll make so much money. I said, Dad, I don't want to be a factory worker. I want to be a police officer. I want to be in law enforcement. And I was dissuaded from that by my parents. You can't do that job. That job's not for you. You're not able to. A lot of negative messaging. Let's turn that around and make it all-encompassing, supportive, learn who you are messaging. And it's okay for you to say to your child, what kind of clown do you feel like today? That gets them feeling and takes them out of the conditioning that you're placing upon them through life, like your father did to you. Not that that was bad, not that that was good. It was conditioning.
Absolutely. Thank you for the explanation, actually, because a lot of people, they may or they may not know, but at the same time, it's kind of like a refreshing again, and then giving another opportunity or chance to look at it from different perspective, right? To understand
Yes.
certain things, though, because now as we are speaking, a lot of kids or even fathers, they are going through so much challenges, but at the
Yes.
same time that when we look back, um, now we kind of like understand that, okay, you know what, fathers, what kind of challenges or what kind of situation they are going through, they cannot share more, or they don't talk about the pain behind the tears, or anything. But it's not like females that we can share with other people or things like that. But there are so many fathers, they are going through so many sufferings and things like that, but we don't know.
Yes.
Every one of them, they have their own journey. We had to go through it, no matter what. But um, what I want to ask is that, of course, you mentioned a couple of things. I want to take you back as a clown master teacher. What is the message for this Father's Day coming up? June 16th, actually, is 2 weeks from now, probably the Sunday. So, what do you want to tell them? What is your message?
My message is that in order for a father to be a good role model, you can do this for your son or for your daughter. You can guide gently, only when you see that they're heading down the wrong road. And for some, maybe that will be their journey, going down that wrong road, and maybe that's their journey to have. Of course, we don't want to see harm come to our kids, but in doing that, we smother them from the realities of life, as opposed to teach them coping mechanisms like looking at life through a clown's eyes and getting that birthday clown erased from your mind, and think about what that theater clown asked me to do, to demonstrate a whole story without words. And so fathers and sons do that a lot. They talk without words. And a lot of times, in our father's era, they walked away from their families. And that happened a lot. But I'm going to give you an example before, as we go. In the police department now, there exists two cultures: the culture that I was a part of, and the culture of people that the new police officers today that are being taught to be more feeling, more empathetic towards whatever somebody's going through on a call. However, they have something called a training officer in policing that takes out the new recruit and shows them how to be a policeman. Where that person is from still today is the day where you did things a certain way, like profiling. And that officer has enough experience, that training officer, and he comes out of the old world into this new world, and he's teaching those kids that are in policing to only repeat the mistakes of the past. He's doing nothing to let them be individual, but everything to mold them into the way things are. And I'm not a big subscriber. When I hear that's not traditional, I say that's very limited thinking. That's very non-linear thinking. Or I'm sorry, that's very linear thinking. My apologies. That's very linear thinking of you to say that. I'm a non-linear thinker. I don't believe in traditionally this should be done this way or that way. In some cultures, of course, you know, there's traditions that have to be followed religiously. But just in general day-to-day living, freedom, allow your child the freedom to choose. And if you see it's going to lead them to danger, tell them certainly what your thoughts are, but ultimately say it is up to you whether you continue down that path. Any way you look at this, some way you're going to be taught a lesson. The other day, as a bachelor, I put my hand on the hot stove. What is the first thing they teach you as a kid? Your parents teach you, don't touch that hot stove. I touched it 3 times, which was interesting to me. I kept touching it by accident and burning myself. And that's the way I've had to learn through my life. I fought every type of social norm. I've struggled to be who I am today. And no one wants me to be that person, because that person is vulnerable and he's a wimp. Even though he looks scary, he's very soft. I've heard all these terms used about me: soft, wimp, all these degrading terms. Let me tell you, these are empty, hollow words meant to take you down that person's path and make it attractive for you to go fight with them, rather than staying in your own lane and saying, what you're saying to me, I cannot control. Therefore, it does not bother me. So fathers, do your sons the biggest favor you can and give them as much as you can freedom to experience what life is, without you constantly saying, no, not that way, do it this way, because that's the way my father taught me. That may be great in a storybook or in a movie, but it's not realistic in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Without exploring anything, we cannot learn anything, though. Right?
That's right. We're constantly being sheltered from the pain.
Yeah. Well, it's in a way, they don't know that's not their intention to harm, but at the same time that they have to understand that you know, when we were look at their self when they were a child, they had the same feeling, they had the same kind of like a mental process and everything, and then they don't understand when they grow up, and then they just want to just follow the rules system, that's all. So
yes,
it's very funny, interesting world we need to understand. Can you talk about your classes, 2-day classes, the course that you are teaching, and then how to contact, how can people reach out to you?
Yes, most certainly. The classes I teach are done online, and only because I live on an island in the middle of the ocean in Canada called Newfoundland, and you can't not many you could certainly fly here and take the course with me personally. I don't see that happening with many people. The beauty of what I teach is it can be done in 2 4-hour days, which is usually a Saturday and a Sunday, 4 hours each day. And in that time period, you're going to get a taste of discovering that inner clown. And the work is going to bring a lot of emotion out in you. You have to be prepared mentally to do that work. If you're going to come and you think it's going to be just some silly class, you'll be sadly mistaken, because it's going to affect your heart. What I'm going to teach you, you have no choice but to look introspectively. People can reach me by this email if they're interested in taking my 2-day inner clown workshop, which is done online only from the comfort of your home. And that email is Shane, SHANE _ Flanagan, FLANNIGAN @AOL.com. You can reach me there via email to ask as many questions as you like. And you can explore this and begin to explore this very deep practice that is based in mindfulness, in doing things slow, not fast. It's going to go against everything that you feel. I call what we live in a bell-ringing society. In other words, how are we taught at school in Canada? The bell rings, you must line up. The kids respond naturally. There's a conditioning there, and that must be delaminated. It must be gotten rid of, that internal, oh gosh, I have to be to work at 9 a.m. Well, certainly you do if that job demands that, but what kind of life are we really living? And so I would be only happy. I only take 10 students per class. I do classes. I take 10 students per class. The cost is $200 Canadian that's all inclusive of the 2 days. And we spend 4 hours together, which is really a nice time. It allows you to continue with your day after we're done and before we start. But you're going to be at your best because you're going to need a notepad and a pen, and you're going to need your heart to be there. And that heart has to be seen, because if it isn't, you're going to pay that $200. If you don't feel you can do this, then that $200 and you go ahead and take the program, you won't get anything out of it. You have to be in the mental headspace that you are willing to take a deep look at yourself, however that looks. You have to be willing for the tears to flow if that's what happens, or for you to shout in anger if that's what happens. It's you feel every moment of the inner clown's journey and process. So that's how you can get in touch with me. If you're looking at a higher learning through a unique name, the inner clown, taught by somebody that looks very alternative and unique. And by the way, many people think this is just a makeup that I'm wearing. It's an actual tattoo that I have. And there's a meaning to it, but that can be gotten into in the course. You'll enjoy yourself. You'll feel better. We teach people pleasers not to be people pleasers. I was one of them at one time, but to have boundaries and to learn for yourself what you're willing to say yes and no to. I've also got a YouTube channel called Living Unfiltered with Shane. And unfiltered living is the essence of inner clown living. Check it out on YouTube. That I'm there, and you can reach me by email with any questions that you have. I'll be happy to share.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Shane. Even
Yes, sir.
the one thing I like it, or I mean, I wouldn't say one thing. It's a lot of things. I'm going to list a couple of them. But what I was going to say is that the art form, when you give, when you surrender yourself, you know, people may know, of course, whoever is in the art, they know, they can feel it, most of them. I
Yeah.
don't know all of them or many of them, most of them they can feel. um, so if you surrender yourself to the art, it will take you to the destination, wherever you want to reach, or wherever it wants to take it. You don't need to analyze it, like you said earlier, but the universe will take it. Um, it is the
Yeah.
destination that, maybe when you come back and then, or you want to see yourself after some times, you can see your the evolvement. How did you start, and then where you are right now. So the art, it has its own beauty. So it will take to wherever it can go. So it doesn't have a boundary, any boundary. So that's
Yeah.
the beauty of that. Um, so so far we talked about men's mental health, art therapy, being in a child, looking at things through your clown's eyes, father and son relationship. So Shane talked about a lot of things. I'm pretty sure, I'm confident you guys will take some of these, at least think about yourself, at the same time that maybe if something, it can be one word or one line or the whole his life journey, anything, it can make life changer. We don't know, right? So please, one thing is, you are watching, you are listening, and you're going to think about that, analyze it, but at the same time, talk to somebody or pass it around, share with other people. That's the way we can reach out more people, we can help more people, we can even serve more people, though, right? So once again, thank you, Shane, for joining and sh- uh, you know giving sharing, opening up and sharing your life journey with us. It is absolutely amazing, and lot of things we need to still, we want to go deeper and deeper, but we can bring you back and then have a more dialogues. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Oh, you're very welcome. And thank you for having me. I will be happy to come back at any time you wish. And I will say this in conclusion: remember, trust the process. It's not about what you want to do. You don't control, none of us control anything. The direction we're heading, anything. That is all an illusion. Put that to sleep. What is happening is right here in this moment. Oh, not the moment's gone now. This moment. And that's the way you live life, moment to moment, small bites, incrementally, and you're going to discover more things and see more things because you're doing it slowly. And I love you. I love everybody that is listening. Men, I will say to you this: I will always be here to support you, as I'm sure Sivam is, and his organization, and be vulnerable enough be vulnerable enough, get used to saying, I'm in the dark. I don't know what my direction is. I need help. Those are some of the hardest words you'll ever say. Until you say them once, you'll be able to say them again and get stronger and to ask for help. That is the key.
Absolutely. I just want to add one more thing. It is okay to ask for help. At the same time, it is okay to ask one more question: are you really okay? Especially this month, it is always supposed to be, but at least this month, extra care. Whoever, the closest one, or wherever you see people, especially men, we are talking about. It doesn't matter which age group, but at least, you can sense most of the times if you're really genuine and to be be with them or really want to willing to help them, you can sense them whether they are okay or not. It is okay to ask one more time, you know what, are you really okay, can I help you, um, there's a one question, one word or one thing they want to hear, that's all. You never ever know what's going on in their life until they speak out, right? So um, anytime you can save their lives, or at least at the moment they just want to make just a simple positive change, that's all, right? Thank you, Shane, once again, and then we will catch up later on. Thank you. See you next time, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.